Hello, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy. You may remember my audio, originally an audio cassette and more recently a CD. Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's sold over 67 million copies to date, and it's in 8 languages, going on 3 more languages. It'll be 11 languages pretty soon. Obviously, the public all over the world is interested in the health benefits of the plant-derived colloidal minerals, and I'm happy to tell you I'm joining forces with an icon in the health field, a guy by the name of Kordich. Jay is also known as the Juice Man. Through the 20th century and the 21st century, over a 52-year period, Jay has sold over $1 billion worth of juice machines, and nobody has taught more people about health than Jay Kordich. I'm just so proud to be able to say that we've combined forces, and we're going to share with you our beliefs and why that juicing and the plant-derived colloidal minerals are partners in keeping you healthy so you can reach 100. So, Jay, why don't you begin by telling us your story?
It goes back a ways, I'll tell you that. And I think about how time flies. It really does. And I want people to take note of that, because now is important. Now is for the rest of your life. And I'm thinking about, here I am back in 1945 and 46, right after the Second World War. In fact, I played 3 years of football for the Navy, for the All-Star Games in Hawaii. Football, that was my game,
you know. Jay, you played football for a big university, didn't you?
University of Southern California. Okay. Played football for them after I got out of the Navy, after the Second World War, and we went to the Rose Bowl, and we got shellacked. That was one of the, we got beaten pretty badly. But that was my christening, even though I had medical classes and cut up cadavers at med school at USC. And
so you're a pre-med student?
A pre-med student, absolutely. Okay. I even became a med student before I switched over to physical education to get my coaching degree.
Okay.
But I had this problem that I never knew would hit me. When you're a 9'7" sprinter for the 100 yards, you know, you're an athlete, you're tough, you're rough. You never think you're going to get ill. You think I could live
immortal.
forever. Yeah, immortal, and I could eat anything. I mean, I could do anything. I mean, it doesn't bother me. Soda pop, which I did. Malted milks, milkshakes.
You did that?
Yeah, I did that. Well, unknowingly, you know. Yeah. And when the boys are out and everybody's out there, they go to a bar. I remember Julie's up there by USC. It's one of the hangouts for the football players, the old Trojans. And I remember sitting around having 3-4 beers after football practice and stuff. Everybody, all ball players do it even now. We know that. All right?
Absolutely.
I didn't know that would affect my bladder, my urinary bladder and all that. I didn't know these things in those days. You're an athlete, you're a sprinter, you're doing great. And I became one of the best racquetball players in the country too after that.
Did you play in tournaments?
I played in tournaments. I won a couple of them, yeah. But I was in my 50s when I was playing guys that were 20 years old and 25 years old. And I love sports. All my life, I was an athlete. I was a runner. I played on Starkist Tuna national champion softball team. I played center field for them.
And that's how you got your strength, isn't it? You actually worked with your dad on the tuna ships.
Oh, the tuna ships, yeah. He owned a boat called the Sea Pride for French sardine. That's the name of the cannery that canned all the tuna fish and albacore and all that. That was my christening. Lifting up skipjack and tunas by the tail. And when my dad came in with a big load, and the fishing boat came in with a big load from Mexico or Central America, they came into the Starkist tuna cannery, and my mom would say, "Go help Papa out. Go help him out. Go help him pick those tunas up and put them in this great big vats that can pick them up by winches and take to the cannery." And these tunas were 50, 60 pounds each, and I grabbed one by the tail and the other by the tail, pick them up, and I had arms on me that were terrific in those days. So work ethics I had. I never...
sounds like it,
yeah. I never flinched. Any place I could work. And don't forget, all this work was not being paid. It was just to help my dad.
How old were you then, Jay?
14, 15, 16
wow.
In those days. And they built big arms for me.
Well, you're still a pretty strapping guy.
I was strong in those days. But you got to look at me now at 84 years old. And all that work and the work ethics and the things that I did in those days carried me through to my age now.
Okay.
And gave me the vitality and the stamina. Now, good eating too. I learned that as I went through university and everything else. So, Joel, you know, there's an old adage that Gaylord Hauser and Adele Davis and all the people that I worked with years ago, the old timers, used to say, "You are what you eat," as far as physiological strength is concerned.
Yeah, that's a
and
classic,
longevity.
isn't it? You
know
are what
that.
you eat.
You
Sure.
know that, Joel. You've
That's
been
a
preaching
classic.
this.
Well,
most of your
I'm
life.
following in your footsteps.
Yeah,
So
no, you're out there. You're out there with me. We've known each other for a long time. But let me tell you, it's not that difficult to stay healthy. All you have to do is push aside the foods that can abuse the body, foods with chemicals, foods that have preservatives in them, additives in them. I also look at things that are alive, and I know that cooking kills. It may not kill you directly, but it alters those nutrients. It reshapes the structure of food. And I love this when I used to give my seminars. All life on planet Earth emanates from the green of the plant.
well, you're 100% right there, Jay. Let me tell you. Baseball players, when they're good, they hit 300. You're hitting 1,000 when you say that.
Yeah.
You've identified probably the most important part of how we live on a day-to-day basis is the green plant.
Joel, I've always said, if you could, fortunately nobody can, but if you could wave a magic wand over Mother Earth, that's why they call it Mother Earth, because it's our mother. It's what sustains life. If you could wave a magic wand over Mother Earth and say, plants be gone, we all, within a day or two or three, wither up and shrivel up and die. Why? Not just because of the nutrients. Plants produce also the plankton of the ocean, the oxygen that we breathe by. Without plants, we all perish on this earth. Plants are the factories of life. Always remember that, Joel. I want everybody that's listening to you and I want them to know that the roots of plants that reach down to that ground and take the nutrients, which are inorganic compounds, and draw them into the plant system itself. And plants now recreate the nutrients, the minerals, the vitamins, the enzymes, the biogenics, the chlorophyll. All life comes from the green of the plant.
Well, Jay, again, you're 100% right. You're batting 1,000. Now, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Because you know more than, I talk to literally hundreds of university scientists a year, and they don't know what you're saying. They really have no clue where life comes from. And I want people to know the dedication that you have put forth over the years in getting this information out. So let's go back to the time at which you had your cancer and you made a choice. You made a choice. Were you going to go with the chemotherapy and radiation, or were you going to go a different route? What choice did you make?
Well, if you can say that my cancer was a blessing in disguise, which nobody can say, and I don't want to say that, but I want to thank the medical doctors that I worked with. Dr. Baldwin.
Okay.
He looked like Albert Einstein with hair, and he'd ride a motorcycle around University of Southern California, and he was the master in nutrition and human anatomy classes and everything. I took my classes from him. He liked me. I was a ball player. He always liked ball players. We always got passing grades, whether we passed or not. He always gave us passing grades. And I remember when he found out I had cancer of the bladder, he helped me. He's the one that put me in touch with Dr. Max Gerson. At Max, I went all the way to New York, and he put me on the juice.
Well, he was a controversial guy back then, Max Gerson.
Absolutely. He was a heretic, if you want to call him that, And I went all the way from Los Angeles to New York, and Gerson put me on the diet, and I took the liver shots and stuff like that, and raw liver. I had to make juices out of raw liver, baby beef liver, and make juices out of it and mix it with my regular carrot juice. And
and so you actually put baby beef liver juice in with carrot juice.
That's what I. That's
and that
the
was
way
the
I did
Max
it.
Gerson treatment.
that was one of his treatments, and you had to give yourself a liver shot.
Okay.
Yeah, you had to buy the neat syringes.
So it was a liver extract.
Liver extract, and you have to off your hip, below your waist. There's a little soft spot on either part of your hips, and you're supposed to put this vial and you shoot the liver extract into your body. Then 2 days later, you do another one on the other side.
Okay.
And you're black and blue here after about a week or so.
I can imagine.
But that was part of Gerson's treatment. And the liver extract, in his book, A Cancer Therapy, he talks about it. He shows you. He tells you where you can get it. Listen, what did I know? Even though I had medical classes, I didn't know much about naturalness. And it was really something for me to make juice out of the liver extract and then drink it.
And how long did you have to do that?
Well, I did that for about 5 weeks.
Okay.
But the carrot apple juice was every day, almost on the hour, every hour. You had to have carrot apple, carrot apple, carrot apple. And to this day, I had some this morning, carrot apple. I don't do it as diligently as I did then because it was crucial that I did it then.
You were motivated.
Oh, listen, my life was on the line. But I did it and I kept it up. And to this day, I'm right now at my age, my football weight when I played football for USC and the Green Bay Packers. I'm the same weight right now.
I'm telling you, Jay, for our listeners, 90% of the guys out there would be jealous of your physique because you are fit.
Well, I'm in pretty good shape. I'm in pretty good shape, yeah.
You got through this. You were cured of your cancer, which was a miracle in of itself. So obviously, this heretic, this controversial guy, Dr. Max Gerson, that was your introduction to him and his thinking. And what motivated you then to hit the road and start sharing information about juicing?
Well, let me go back just a step.
Sure.
What really motivated me to take this program on and incorporate it into my lifestyle was because Dr. Max Gerson, his number one patient was Dr. Albert Schweitzer.
Oh, my goodness.
So I said, if Schweitzer believes in that, why not me? I have no other alternative. Do I want to be cut open? And I want to rebuild, restructure my body. And the way to do it, it just seemed so natural, so factual. Look, everything we eat, Joel, and I want all the people out there listening to this, everything we eat has to be turned to liquid. Your body is a juice machine. I mean, it's common sense.
You're exactly right.
You have peristaltisis. Some people have a slow peristaltic action of 10 or 12 or 15. Those are the ones that get constipated all the time. The one that have a normal 21 or 22 beats per minute, the contracting and relaxing the muscles as the food goes through the digestive channels. All the body's trying to do to the food that you chewed and swallowed is break it down to liquid. So when all that food, we call it chyme by then, when it all comes down, the fibers and the pulp and the hydrochloric acid and everything that your body produces, when it all gets down to that third part of the small intestine called the ileum, where you have your little villi. It looks like a Turkish towel with fringes sticking up, and there's little minute microscopic holes. Only the juice penetrates through that ileum, through the portal vein into your liver to reach your bloodstream to feed your 100 trillion cells. The fiber goes the ileocecal canal valve, and alongside the ascending, transverse, descending colon, and out the rectum and the toilet. That's where the fiber goes. That's where the bulk goes. That's where the pulp goes. Now, fiber is essential. Don't get me wrong, Joel. And I want everybody out there to understand fiber comes from what? Plant life. Fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, grains, and beans and legumes. You can't name me anything else. The only fibers known to man that we need to keep from having colorectal cancer are plants. Plants that come out of the ground, of which we come out of. And eventually, they say, unless they shoot us out in space somewhere later on after we pass away out in space, we go back into the ground. What I want everybody to understand is, why have we referred to planet Earth as Mother Earth? Mother Earth. Have you heard that? Every one of us have heard that saying, quote, unquote, Mother Earth. Why? Because that's our mother. That's supposed to nourish us from the time we are born until the time we leave this earth. Mother Earth. Go for it. Mother Earth creates all the plants. Without Mother Earth, we'd all perish because we wouldn't have oxygen to breathe. It's the plants that create the oxygen for us to breathe by, the green of the plant, right?
Exactly. Again, you're batting 1,000.
I have been blessed. My mother lived to be 99 years old, and my father passed just shy of his 104th birthday. And I think back, why? How could my father have lived to been 104 years old when all of his brothers passed away in their 60s and their 70s? Maybe it was something that he did and my mom did that were a little bit different. My dad was a fisherman for Star-Kissed Tuna, came over from Yugoslavia, and I used to work on the tuna clippers with him when I was 15 and 16 years old, when he came in from Mexico and Panama and South America with all his load of fish to the fish canneries. And he used to send me down. I used to help unload the fish, this 100 tons of tuna or whatever, in skipjack and albacore. And I just wanted to know, when my father was up there in age and I was still a young man, you remember, I was fighting cancer, why did my dad live to such a ripe old age when all his brothers passed away very young? When I became the father of juicing, I think about all the juice I used to make for my dad and my mom. I think about when I gave them the juicer to make their juices with, and I think about how many glasses of juice. And another thing, my dad was growing his own vegetables in his backyard. It was beautiful. He had parsley, and he had spinach, and he had celery, and he had all kinds of greens going. Scallions were growing. Then he had loquat trees and peach trees and orange trees. He was really into it after he retired from the fishing industry. And I apply this knowledge that I had to his being 100 years, 100, passing away at 104. It was marvelous. And he had all his faculties. It was amazing. I love that man so much. It was just amazing for me to put another 20 years or so on his life by just changing a little thing, what he put in his body. He watched television. He was a great football fan. He was great. He'd love all that stuff, just like you and I. He was a big meat eater when he was a young man. He was a big, strong man. He ate a lot of animal products, and he ate a lot of cooked food. But when I showed him how to put that juice together and how to make these various combinations, and my mom and he would make these juices on a daily basis, it warmed my heart up. I didn't know my dad was going to live to be 104 years old. I didn't know my mom would be 99. It was just amazing. And that just substantiated everything that I learned through the university and through all the people that I worked with. For instance, Gaylord Hauser, Adele Davis, Dr. Andrew Rosenberger, all these people that I worked with in the early days when I was in my 30s and my 40s after I became a proponent on juicing. I definitely put the finger on all this information and all this application. To know something and not apply it is foolish. Once you know where life comes from, all plants, of course, and you apply that, that, to me, is the sane way to go through this life. I happen to be a raw foodist right now, and it's beautiful. We do make some soups, and even some of our soups are made raw, but I do use pure foods. I'm a voracious fruit eater. Whatever's in season. I'm eating papaya on a regular basis. I eat pineapple chunks. I do a lot of oranges. I do a lot of berries. Grapes are one of my mainstays, and I try to buy everything I can organic, unsprayed. So let's get to it. These are my 5 tips to live a long, healthy, disease-free life. And hopefully, if you practice it, it'll bring you to over 100 years of age. The number 1 tip is foods must be pure and uncooked. That's a real biggie in my mind. Pure foods, uncooked foods. Foods that are alive are uncooked. Once you cook them, you've altered them. You've not only changed the minerals and the vitamins, but you destroy something very intrinsic. You destroy the enzyme factor, and the enzymes are the catalyst. They mean everything. If the enzymes are there, that food is in its entirety. Everything then is synergistic and ready to work. One element to rely on another element, and these foods have the power of life in them. Once you alter, once you cook them, once you devitalize them, those foods can no longer build live cells, and your body will atrophy. And so the foods that I use are fruits and vegetables. Only put into your body foods that are pure. This is one of the principles on living a long, healthy life. I don't want my body to cope with toxicities and poisons. All the food value after it's broken down, it's the liquid portion of that food that goes through the intestinal wall, through the villi, through the portal vein, into your liver to reach your bloodstream eventually. And all these foods filter in to your liver. And if your liver is inundated with chemicals and toxicity, it breaks down. And that's a key organ of your body. I have never seen anybody that was healthy that had a bad liver. The liver is your main organ of the body. So juicing every day is important. But the foods we eat have to be pesticides free too. You cannot put the pesticide food in your body. You're going to contaminate that body, and you're going to have very, very early upheavals. You know, I'm in my 80s now. I'm more intense on bringing natural foods into my body, and I'm more intense on bringing as much uncooked food in my body. Sometimes I eat a little oatmeal, a little bowl of soup, things like that. But when I do things like that, I always add enzymes on top.
I always add enzymes in my soup. I always, when I eat cooked food or steamed food, I will eat a mouthful or two, but then I'll have some vegetable juice and take a sip or two of that. Then eat another mouthful or two of the foods that are cooked and bring my vegetable juice, because that is full of enzymes. I have catalysts, I have antioxidants, I have the things that offset cellular damage that are in my juices, you see. So that's an everyday thing to me. I'm very particular. Juicing every day is one of the greatest contributing factors to staying healthy when you're in your 90s and 95 and to reach that goal of 100 disease-free. Very, very important to juice every day. And I don't mean just one big glass of juice or a pint in the middle of the day. I want you to juice first thing in the morning. I taught you a little bit about the berries, how they are blood cleansers and blood purifiers, how they stimulate the brain cells, especially blueberries. They're magnificent. Use them. Eat them. You don't have to just juice them. Eat them too. Juicing is the direct way to your bloodstream without the body having to digest any food. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm staying healthy, even though I had cancer years ago. That's why I think in my 80s I'm staying very vital and very vibrant and very healthy, because I eat a little bit, but I juice a heck of a lot more than I can eat. And these things have direct entrance into my bloodstream to feed my cells. That's the youth factor there. I have things in there like superoxide dismutase that are anti-aging substances. They lie in the leafy greens. They lie in the sprouts that I eat, the raw sprouts. I sprout my own. We have our own sprouter at home. These are things that are indispensable to life. Now, I juice in the morning. It's fruit juice. I eat fruit during the morning, during the day. Around noon and early afternoon and early evening, I make a lot of vegetable juice, carrot, celery, spinach, parsley. I do some of the greens like romaine lettuce. I do beet greens. I do things like turnip greens. I juice them and mix them with my carrot, my apple, and everything else. These are the substances of life that keep me youthful, that keep me invigorated, that detoxify, that won't let an accumulation of toxicity in my body, that will purify the bloodstream, that brings oxygen to the bloodstream. These are indispensable facts. You've got to go for it. I didn't know a lot. I was an athlete. I didn't know a lot about how to stay healthy. I had to learn. And it's your time now to learn on how to protect your body, how to give your body the vital factors of life, the life force. They lie in the sun and sun-baked food, food that is raw, uncooked. They're cooked, but they're cooked by the sun. And that's my number 2 key principle to a long, disease-free, healthy life, is bring that sun in your body. Get outside. Get that sun. I don't care how many clothes you have on. Older people pass away from natural causes when they're in their 60s and 70s and 80s, more in the months of December, January, and February than the rest of the 9 months combined. Why? Because it's winter solstice. The sun is the furthest away from us on the other side of the equator. So when you have somebody that's elderly, send your folks down to Florida. Now, they don't care if they get down to Florida and they wear a muumuu or whatever, a dress, pants, a jacket. The sun is penetrating into their bodies and revitalizing their cells. Without sun, we all perish. Without sun, there's nothing to eat. A lot of you say, well, I don't like fruits and vegetables. I'll eat my steaks every day. Where is that steak going to get the food to thrive on? There's no more vegetation. All life on planet Earth emanates from the green of the plant. And where does that green come from? Mother Earth and sun. And you need that. That sunshine charges your batteries. That sunshine will regenerate your cells. And when the sunlight charges you, and then you also bring into your body the sunlight that's locked into the plant life cells, boy, oh boy, you've got it all. That's my principle. Get at least 20 minutes of sun on your body every day, no matter what. Let that sun charge your battery, those 100 trillion cells. Just remember, the sun, we all live by it. If that sun somehow would be blotted out and it couldn't reach us on Earth, every single one of us would die like a bunch of dead, drying leaves. Sun energizes the body, so do a little bit of that every single day. Now, we're going to go into exercise. And even at my age, in my 80s, I work out at least 3 times a week, an hour a day. And since I played a lot of football, I was a 9.7 sprinter, and I was a voracious racquetball player. I have an elliptical machine. I have a recumbent bike, and every single day I work out. Then I get in my pool and do a little swimming, and even those of you that can't swim, you could at least get in a pool and hold onto the side of the pool and kick your legs and get a lot of exercise. Exercise is indispensable to tone up the human body. And when I'm through with my elliptical machine and my recumbent bike, it's like the greatest exercise that I could possibly ever do for my cardiovascular system. It's marvelous for you. Now, some of you don't have to. Maybe you don't have an elliptical. Maybe you have a regular bicycle. There's nothing wrong with that. But do something. That's one of the reasons to cleanse the body. That's one of the big issues here on keeping yourself youthful in your 80s, 90s, and even reaching that golden age of 100 years. Isn't that marvelous? Do the exercise as often as you can. Now, I'm a believer that you can pick out your own. Some people love to go dancing. Tennis is great. A good brisk walk is great. All these things are important to you. So that's something that you should incorporate into your lifestyle every single day. Remember, sunshine and then the exercise. So get your exercise. Make it easy and fun. Make it something you love to do. You're not training for the Olympics here. It's about training your body for life. Let's move on to my key principle number 4. No negativity. Learn how to forgive others. Commit random acts of kindness to a friend or a stranger or a neighbor. You know how good that makes people feel? And you know how good that makes you feel when you can help people out like that? It's something you can do to feel good every day. Keep your heart open to new things. Stay away from negativity. And you know where it is. You see it every day in your life. And sometimes it's hard to look away. We're drawn to it like moths to a flame, but you need to teach yourself to avoid negative things. Another good thing you can do, donate some of your time to the needy. It'll give you a very positive attitude towards life, and that's a marvelous thing. Always look for the future. Always think positively in your life. I do that a lot. I mean, I've got 2 boys, and my young boys in my life that I brought up. I focus on my wife and my 2 boys and everything else, and that keeps me in action, so to speak. That keeps my mind very aware. I'm a voracious reader. I'm reading all the time. I enjoy my television. I enjoy conversations with friends. I love to go out and give my seminars. I love to do my radio talk shows and my TV talk shows. It's marvelous. That keeps you absolutely youthful. That keeps that mind supple, and it keeps you thinking positively all the time. There's never a depressed time of my life. Now, don't think bad things haven't happened to me. Bad things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen to almost everybody. We lose loved ones. We lose our job. We all have adversities to overcome. No one is immune. I've never given up. I've always felt really great. And that's something that'll come to you when you're healthy and you're vital and you have a lot of energy. I don't think you're going to be that negative. But there's one more principle that has to be brought into effect here, and that is follow your dream. Setting goals. Don't just retire and do nothing. Setting goals is very important. You're never too old to do something constructive with your life. Positive attitudes. Marvelous. Something you might not know about that I've emphasized all my life. Your body, scientists say, is physiologically no more than 7 years of age. So what you bring to those cells rejuvenates those cells. If you bring live foods that have all the life force in them, you're going to have live bodies. That includes the brain. And what you're going to do on top of that, you're going to clean out your body. When you bring in these foods that mean something, that are live foods, these foods are going to detoxify. They're going to keep your body youthful. They're going to give you new cells. You're going to be a young person. I mean, there's going to be time enough to leave this earth. But do the best you can. If not for yourself, then for your body. It's easy to do. You have to make an effort. Here you are, setting goals now, and you're up to my age. You're 80 years old. And now all of a sudden you say, boy, I'm going to open up a business, or I'm going to go to school. Even at 70 and 80 and 90, I'm going to do something with my life. I'm not just going to lie there and let it slip by. I want to be active all my life. And how are you going to do it? You're going to do it by being motivated. And how do you get motivated? By having an active mind, a mind that's aware, a mind that is just sharp, a mind that is not old, a mind that is thinking all the time, a mind that's out there to help other people. Isn't it great to be able to be active and healthy and all the way through life and minimize or eliminate degenerative disease? And it's yours for the asking. All you have to do is apply it. It's one thing to have the knowledge and the wisdom, but it's another thing to apply that knowledge, to put it into use. Cause and effect. It still holds true today.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach again. Isn't Jay great? What a story. This guy has helped so many people with health. And wherever he went, as he spoke to health fairs, he spoke to little health food stores, he spoke at big retail stores, and he did this for 40 years, lived in the back of a pickup truck on the road with he and his wife, Linda, and they became an instant overnight success after 40 years on the road when they started doing their TV infomercials for the Juice Man juicers. Jay, you've got to have some favorites. What are your favorite foods and juices?
Nuts. Almonds, for instance, are one of the highest. In fact, they used to talk about a certain group of people that battled cancer with almonds because they have special commodities in them. Almonds are one. Filberts are another. How about walnuts? They're tremendous for you. And one of the best protein nuts of all time are Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are very high protein, and it has unsaturated fatty acids to lubricate the heart valves and open up the arterial walls. And how about coconut and coconut oil? I love to take the liquid of a coconut, pour it in a glass, and drink it. It's great amount of mineral water, you see. And the coconuts have great high protein. Macadamia nuts are another. How about pecans? Pecans are sensational. And one of my favorites of all, are pignolas, pine nuts. They have unsaturated fatty acids, polyunsaturated vegetable oil. In fact, we'll give it a name of vitamin F. That's a long-lost art to talk about vitamin F. They are unsaturated fatty acids. So I'm a great believer in nuts. When I drive cross-country a lot of times, to give me the protein and the stamina and everything else I eat, I drive from Los Angeles all the way to New York City nonstop. Just sleep in the car a little bit and bingo, if I have to sleep, if I'm drowsy. But I take a whole bag of different kind of nuts with me. Mostly I take almonds, and I'll take pecans, and I take Brazil nuts. They are my sustenance, because I don't stop at coffee shops or restaurants or anything like that. I go all the way. Onions. One of the reasons that you use onions is to make dead food live. And by dead food, I'm talking about cooked food that's lost its enzyme balance, and it's very difficult for the body to digest and body to utilize. What I recommend to everybody, even if you make a soup, like my wife does, like Linda, a lot of times she'll make a raw food soup. That's great. But a lot of times we take a certain kind of soup during the winter days, and a lot of you people that live in northern climates during the winter, you warm up your soup, nothing better than a nice bowl of soup, but chop up some raw onions and put it in that bowl of soup. Those onions will give you the enzymes that were originally in that raw soup that you cook, and the enzymes are your catalyst. They speed up or slow down chemical reactions. So the raw onions I add to it. Plus, raw onions have another benefit, and also garlic. They will fight bacteria and infections very nicely. And onions and garlic are known to reduce high blood pressure. Onions and garlic, for that reason alone, are fantastic. Fresh figs. I'm a great believer of figs. There have been books written about figs and about the little seeds. Have you ever taken a fig and all the juicy, succulent figs inside and the little seeds? Have you ever taken the seeds and just snapped them with your teeth and broken them in half? They are supposed to contain phytonutrients and anti-cancer substances in them. And I eat figs as often as I can. tomatoes. Tomatoes are another one. In research, they're finding out that the lycopene in tomatoes, which can help you prevent certain kind of diseases, is really not usable when the tomato is raw. And they really want you, the people that have done the research on it, to do tomatoes that are cooked. And the best ways to do that is have a great tomato sauce. If you have pasta maybe with spinach noodles or something like that, natural noodles, not white bleached flour noodles, well, you take the tomato sauce that you have and you mix it on top of your pasta. And the lycopene then is usable, and all the other phytonutrients that are in tomatoes, but they're better used in a cooked state. There's another group that I love, that I do every single day of my life, especially when Linda, my wife, makes me the drinks in our blender, and that is the high protein drink with a lot of greens. We use spirulina, and we use blue-green algae, and we use all kinds of green grass powdered spinach, for instance. I'm a great believer in spinach. So what I want you to do is do as much raw spinach salad as you possibly can. There's a thing put out by the government called Nutritional Scoreboard, and number one food in the world is fresh alfalfa. The farmer raises that alfalfa for his livestock. He wants them to get healthy. Now, why is alfalfa so pronounced in food value? Why is it so prolific? Well, it's been known that alfalfa roots go down 20 to 50 feet under the ground, and they burrow and they pull like tentacles nutrients from all over that soil, and they bring it into the alfalfa leaf itself. It's tremendously full of nutrients. I have something that I want you to incorporate. I want to inculcate this into your mind. I'm a great believer of high-density nutrients per calorie, and that it only comes from raw plant life. So I'm a believer in that. Now, parsley. Have you ever seen anybody, when they go to a restaurant, look over another table? Has anybody ever in their entire life ordered from a waitress or a waiter, "I will have a bowl of parsley"? Nobody does that. Nobody gets a plate full of parsley. But parsley is the third most powerful food as far as concentrated nutrients on planet Earth. And then sometimes when you go to dinner, somebody leaves a little piece of parsley when you're getting the other part of your meal, especially a steak or whatever you're eating. Eat the parsley, because parsley is densely full of nutrition, and it's easily used. But parsley is another thing. It's very difficult to eat a platter full of parsley. Parsley is one of my main ingredients when I make any vegetable juice. Parsley is sensational. Kale. There's another green full of protein, full of B complex, full of vitamin C. Kale is fantastic. How about turnip greens? Now, turnip greens are very strong. If you make them into juice, make sure you dilute it with a lot of carrot and maybe apple, because when you make these turnip greens, they are so dense with nutrients, if you take a whole bunch of them, you'll feel like tearing telephone books in half. It'll give you all kinds of stamina and energy. How about barley grass? And some people buy barley grass in the powdered form, which is terrific. It's like wheatgrass, and it's one of the powerful foods, you see. And Swiss chard is another one. And how about dandelion greens? One of the great powerful ones. I've made juices out of dandelion greens and Swiss chard. And how about squash and okra? And how about things that are cruciferous, that has indole-3 carbinol in it, especially for you ladies that might come up with breast cancer. Indole-3 carbinol, which will protect you from having breast tumors and breast cancer. And that lies in what? The cruciferous vegetables. You've been hearing a lot about them. And what are they? Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. One other thing I want to say about some of the grasses. I mentioned barley grass. And we that know, we grow our own wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is sensational. It's equal, if not more important than barley grass. And I make a lot of juice out of it because it's very, very difficult to eat a lot of wheatgrass and all barley green grass, you see. But you can chew it and chew it and chew it and get it down to where you take all the juices out and drain all the juices through your system, and then take the fiber and just throw it away, you see. I even take my wheat berries and soak them overnight, then put them in some topsoil and grow my own wheatgrass in my windowsill at home. I've been doing this ever since Ann Wigmore with the Wheatgrass Clinic showed me how to do this. I'm a great believer of wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is powerful, powerful antioxidant-wise. It's so sensational, and it's really easy to juice. Concord grapes. Johanna Brandt, years ago, wrote a book called The Grape Cure. and it was pinpointed towards Concord grapes to fight various diseases, and the most deadly disease of all of them. You know what it is. I just mentioned it several times in passing. It's called the Grape Cure. It's in a paperback. It's fantastic. And I use a lot of grapes, and the grape that she was referring to was Concord grapes. Concord grapes. Not the Tokay grapes or any of the other grapes. Concord grapes are fantastic. The seeds of a Concord grapes are almost unbreakable. You could chip a tooth, by the way, and you take the Concord grapes and run it through the juicer. And I have a favorite recipe of all time. I call it the Christmas cocktail. And I take a bunch of Concord grapes. You know how dark blue they are? You run them through the juice machine. And then you take a little piece of lemon skin, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches of the lemon skin with the white pulp where your flavonoids are, and run them down with the Concord grapes. And then you take a red apple or a green apple. So you got purple, green, red, yellow, and I call that my Christmas cocktail. And it'll flush the urinary tract for all you people that drink a lot of soda pop and do all these bad things. Well, you want to make this drink, the Christmas cocktail, to flush your kidneys and your urinary tract out. It's magnificent for you. One of the greatest tasting drinks of all time. Cabbage. I was talking about the cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli, the Brussels sprouts. Cabbage is part of that. And cauliflower. I remember when I was a young man, Dr. Walker, I was selling his press at the time. He says, you got a special assignment, Jay. You are going up to Stanford. And I'm a USC guy. You know, I played football for USC. I played in the Rose Bowl for them in 48, just before I found out I had a tumor in my urinary bladder. But I went up to Stanford University. They call it the farm, if you watch the football team play. I went up to Stanford to a guy, the head of the medical department and research department. They were working with people that had stomach ulcers, and they had a captive audience. And this captive audience were prisoners from Alcatraz Island. So Dr. Walker sent up to Stanford me with a juicer to give the university a juicing, because it was a triturator where you grind very slowly, grind all the food together, and all the pulp and the juices like a gruel, it's all together. Then you have a big canvas cloth, like a cake decorating cloth, and you dump this pulp with the juice still in it. You dump it, it's very moist, you dump it into this big cloth, and then you wrap the cloth around it. Then you put it into a press and turn it. Used to be by handle, like jacking up your car. Now you press a button and it compresses everything. It's by hydraulic lift. It's a hydraulic press, and you get the juice out. Well, these people that Dr. Garnett Cheney accumulated, they were all from Alcatraz Island. I guess when you're incarcerated, you worry about life. You have hang-ups and you have anxiety and stress, and your body is not the same anymore, and you start secreting different kind of acids and juices of the body, and before you know it, you have all different kinds of ulcers, peptic ulcers, duodenal ulcers, and what have you, in various regions of your duodenum and your stomach and everything else. Well, he found that freshly made cabbage juice will cure every single stomach ulcer. And he started to give everybody 3 glasses of juice a day. 1 large glass, 10 ounces in the morning, 10 ounces at noon, 10 ounces in the evening before they retired. And within 2 weeks, all but 2 of them were totally cured of their stomach ulcers within a few weeks. The other 2 continued on for another couple of weeks, and they also were cured. This is Dr. Garnett Cheney's work. Very intensive research papers on it and everything. Now, some of the people could not hold the freshly cabbage juice down. So they would have almost kind of a burping type of feeling. So what he did for those that couldn't hold cabbage juice down, he mixed what he called the 3 C's, cabbage, carrot, celery, and gave them that. And it was palatable and would stay down. And this was a great revelation to me, because I was just a beginner making juices in those days. I hadn't worked with too many people that had ailments. I just knew the properties of these plants, and I knew this is the way the body works through my anatomy classes at USC. See, we know that everything we eat has to be turned to juices. Only the juice of the fiber, which is my slogan, can penetrate through the intestinal villi, through the portal vein into your liver, to reach your bloodstream, to feed your 100 trillion cells. That's the way we all work. So Cheney's work was very special in my mind when I saw the results of this cabbage juice curing stomach ulcer, which I thought was incurable. Wow, did it open my eyes. Then I knew, way back then, 1948-49, I knew that This was my calling. I was on the right track for the rest of my life. All berries are blood cleansers and blood purifiers. Berries are magnificent, and blueberries have substance that stimulates the brain, that cleanses the brain out, that gives you more thinking power. They're all thinking about that. The research is pointing towards that. There's certain things in blueberries in particular that are great brain foods and also blood cleansers. Strawberries are the same. Strawberries are not quite the same for the brain, but strawberries are magnificent to purify the blood. Raspberries, red raspberries, blackberries are magnificent. All these berries are blood purifiers and blood cleansers. So these are some of the best things that I can tell you. Watermelon. I go beyond just watermelon. You and I will eat the watermelon. Very thirst-quenching in the heat of the summer. You might live in an area that's very arid or an area that's very humid, and boy, oh boy, is watermelon a fine, refreshing thing. But have you ever thought about eating the skin, the green or striped rind? And how about the white rind below the green coloring? That's an impossibility. You'll end up with a bellyache, a stomach ache. You can't digest that. You can't break it down. But yet, all the B complex lie there. A little bit of protein lies there. Vitamin C lies there. How about the chlorophyll on the green skin of a watermelon? The biogenic, as they call it. The purifier of the lungs. It's in the green skin of a watermelon. Magnificent. But when I want to go 100%, see, the red of the watermelon is less than 5% of the food value. The other 95% lies in the skin and just below it. When I want to go 100%, what do? I cut the watermelon in strips with the rind, the white pulpy part, the white rind, the green skin on the outside, and the red, with the seeds and all, and I run it through my juicer. Oh boy, I've done that on television. I've showed you on QVC. I've shown you this in my seminars. Watermelon, made with the rind and all. Magnificent, magnificent power for the body. Power packed with nutrients. I'd like to say we're immortal. I'd love to be immortal. It'd be great, but we're not. But boy, oh boy, you bring these juices in your body. You're doing something that the body wants to do to that food, but can't. You can't break watermelon rind down, but you're going to use it. Cantaloupe, in the fruit category today, is the #1 fruit in the world. And as I mentioned, I say it again, high density of nutrients per calorie. Cantaloupe has more food value, very low calorie. You take a large cantaloupe, it only has about 80 or 90 calories. But it's chock full of all kinds of food value and antioxidants and phytonutrients and phytochemicals. Then you can use honeydew melon if you want and cassava melons and all that. I'm a voracious eater of melons, especially in the summer. The watermelon, I eat a lot of it, and I juice a lot of it.
And Jay, now you've got past this cancer thing. That alone was a miracle. You've passed this cancer thing. You beat it following Max Gerson's juicing program.
That's right.
All the juices from the carrots and the apple and the liver extract injections. That had to be painful.
That was, yeah, that was.
And so now you're dedicated. You have had the miracle of survival of cancer through this heretic, through this crazy guy. Everybody's calling him this crazy guy. And he actually cured you with his treatment.
Yeah.
And so
he was terrific.
you made a choice again. You made a choice of going that therapy route rather than surgery. And then you made a choice again. You decided not to go back to football, but what did you do? You hit the road and you did what?
Well, I was already out of school by then, out of USC. But I said, wow, what he did for me, or let's put it this way, advising me to drink juices, it's the juices what did it for me. The plant life that did it for me. And that's what motivated me to say, wait a minute, if this works for me, it's got to work for everybody. It's the essence of life.
Pretty good reasoning.
Pretty good reasoning, yeah. It's got sunlight and everything. And I said, wait a minute, when I went through all this, and I got to say, it was very, very, very difficult. The liver shots were easy. I mean, they were a little painful at times. The thing about what motivated me to stay on that program, it wasn't that I was losing weight and feeling euphoric and full of energy. That was a plus, yes. But that there was no more blood coming from the bladder.
Okay, so you had symptoms. You knew.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you sought medical help,
Yeah, I
because
started
you're
passing blood on my
urine.
shorts,
Okay.
urine, you know, and that was the tip-off that something's wrong. And it was my bladder. And I'm not going to say it's the beer alone that did it. It was the hot dogs, the hamburgers, it was everything. I was a college kid. Who knew any different? They used to give you free steaks on the training table at USC.
I'd be first in line.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, the best. T-bone steaks and lamb chops every night. I mean, everything, all meats. And I wasn't used to it. I'm a fisherman's son, so we were too poor to afford steaks and things like that. So going this way and seeing what the juices of plants could do for me, and watching my energy come back, and a terrific relief from pain. Because when I urinated, there was a lot of pain, because there was a lot of blood coming out. To see that happen, I just pounced on juices even.
Well, it's got to be very scary for a young fella to see that.
Oh, yeah. I was a sprinter. I was 9'7" sprinter for the 100, and I was an athlete. Won a couple gold watches, anchoring relay teams in the L.A. Coliseum, and I'm an athlete.
You still are, by the looks of you.
And then they go through this and find out I'm pretty close to finalizing my life. And it was only 1948 and 49. And then when I jumped on these foods and saw that, I knew enough through my medical school and my anatomy classes that I knew that we could reconstruct the cells of the body. And you are made from what you put in your mouth. And your mouth, our mouths, Joel, you know this as well as I do. Our mouths are real dumb. As soon as you bring something to it, it'll open up. Yeah. It'll take anything you want to shovel in and start the digestive pattern after you gulp it down.
You're exactly right.
That's right. There's only one food on planet Earth that has every element, every vitamin, all the enzymes, all the biogenics. It has protein and vitamins, everything you look for to reconstruct the body. And that food, there's only one, and that food are plants. See, I singularly say that food, then I pluralize it by saying are plants. Plants are the factories of life. And the substances, or if you will, quote unquote, the juices of these plants are the only part that's available. Now, if you remember your science classes, cellulose fiber itself is indigestible to we human beings. Cows can chew on their cuds and regurgitate and swallow the grass again. You and I cannot break the cellular walls down.
Yeah, they have 4 stomachs, we have one.
One. And what happens is that when you're making juices, you've released those precious elements. That's why I never knew anything about juices until I had this quote-unquote incurable disease. My prostate and my bladder and everything else happening to me like that and passing blood every day. And I mean, I was frightened because I had enough anatomy classes to know, hey, listen, something's wrong here. So I feel fortunate. I feel fortunate that I read about Dr. Albert Schweitzer and how he went to Dr. Gerson. He himself went to Gerson to be treated.
Well, Albert Schweitzer went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. He won.
Yeah.
And you're famous because you went on to teach juicing. You're the father of juicing.
Yeah.
And I want people to know the dedication that it took. Everybody thought you were an overnight success, but you were running around for how many years in an old banged-up pickup truck teaching people how to juice?
Yeah.
Tell me that story.
I bought an old pickup truck from a farmer. In fact, I demonstrated juicers from his farmhouse underneath a whole bunch of trees. I'll never forget this, up in Michigan. And he ran an extension cord, about 5 of them hooked together. Then we had a card table out there under some apple trees. And I remember the farm near Kalamazoo. That's my first place that I went to demonstrate.
Michigan,
yeah. I went on there with a card table and I started making juices. They ran this long extension cord from their farmhouse to this card table. And I had this juicer that I had worked with that saved my life.
And how many people were at that first demonstration?
2. Maybe 3.
If you counted yourself, maybe 3.
Yeah. And people kept coming in and all that, but that's good. Then I went to the health store. I went to Grand Rapids, Michigan after that. The guy's name was Sawal or something like that. That's health store.
Yeah, a lot of Dutch people, Hollanders, they call them there in Western
they
Michigan.
Were great. They were great. They took me under their wing and helped me out and everything else. Then I went to Adrian, Michigan. Then there was a department store.
Like Newberry's or something like that?
Well, that's when I first started.
Okay.
I went to J.J. Newberry, downtown Los Angeles, and demonstrated juices. And the first demonstration I ever made, I put the carrots through, and it splattered everybody. I didn't fasten the top on. And I think the store paid for everybody's cleaning bill. not sure. And it was funny. It wasn't really funny, but everybody laughed eventually.
Yeah. And so at that time, you really had no idea that you were going to be known as the father of juicing,
no,
right?
I never did.
No.
I just
and
thought,
you were just passionate. You were just wanting to share your story and share this blessing you got from juicing with everybody you could talk to.
yeah, you read the books on the human anatomy and you know what the body's requirements are. You know what some of the masters talk about. I got to meet Gaylord Hauser, Adele Davis, and I lectured with them for years and all that.
Wow.
But yeah, it was my early days of life. It's beautiful. Beautiful to see these people. And whenever the National Health Federation had a convention, well, you've been there too,
Sure.
Joe. I won't mention names, but I mean the people that started it. And I used to listen to all the speakers, and I won't even mention any names there, Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so, because I was a babe in the woods. I was phys ed. I studied books on the anatomy and all that, but you didn't know anything about plant life. You didn't know anything about substances. You didn't know anything about liquids and how that body works with the peristaltic wave, that everything has to be turned to liquid before it can be absorbed through the intestinal villi, through the portal vein into your liver to feed your 100 trillion cells. And that's what everybody has to do, you see?
And that's an amazing observation that our body is just really a big juice machine, turning everything into juice so it can be absorbed and used. I mean,
Yeah.
what an observation.
What an observation. But that's factual, and that's what actually happens. So, Joel, as long as we're talking about that and what the body does to food, breaks it down to liquid, okay, now let's do this. Let's talk about just something simple,
Okay.
like everybody does.
Okay?
People eat hamburgers, right?
Yep.
They eat steaks, right?
Yep.
Bodies turn in whatever you chew and swallow into liquid. And the farmers, to build beautiful livestock, have gone out of their way to give them the greens and the alfalfa and the hay and the corn and the maize and the grasses.
And the soybeans.
Soybeans, absolutely. You see, you want to keep those animals healthy. And on top of it, they knew better than to take those greens or the corn, maize, whatever. They knew better than to take and cook and steam it, because you've altered the nutrients. You've changed it. You've killed the intrinsic factor called enzymes, which are your chemical catalyst.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out, Jay, because certainly, regardless of the type of heat you use, whether it's steam or boiling water or wood heat or electric heat, gas heat, propane heat, liquid paraffin heat, kerosene heat, microwave heat, any form of heat will change the proteins and the vitamins and the enzymes. And enzymes are just proteins that do work.
That's right. They're chemical catalysts.
It's chemical catalysts.
Yeah,
exactly.
you need those catalysts to do the jobs that the body requires. And you know, the funny thing about it, why should people heat and cook everything and destroy the elements that are so profound for the human body's development and to keep it well? The only heat that plant life really needs is the heat from the sun.
The plant gets a lot of things from the sun.
That's
You know,
right.
light,
That's right.
light, which stimulates the photosynthesis process, and we're going to talk about that more in a minute.
I remember when I first started making carrot juice to the general public. They'd never seen it. I wasn't on television then, of course. And I remember people said, when I put a carrot through the juice machine, where do you put the water in at? They thought I was pouring water in there to get that big flow of, fill up that glass with
the juice,
Yeah, the
yeah.
juice. And where do you put the color in at? The orange color in the water. And you can't blame them, because you take a carrot and you squeeze it with both of your fists around that carrot, all your might, and not a drop of juice comes out of it. Yet, there's more juice in a carrot per volume and weight than there is in an orange.
Wow.
Isn't that
is
something?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And did you know that the juice of a carrot, molecularly speaking, is almost identical to the blood of the human body?
That's true. When you talk about the blood, which if you take away the white blood cells, the red blood cells, the platelets, and the proteins, what you have in there is a saline solution.
Saline solution.
Yeah. And when you take the juice of plants, you have a saline solution.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you what, if I'm on my deathbed someday, you tell them this, Joe.
Okay.
If I'm on my deathbed someday and I'm laying there prostrate and they don't know what to do with me, just say, inject him with some carrot juice. That'll be good enough. I'll be jumping right up out of that bed, believe me. It's the life force from the sun. We all live and nurtured by the sun and Mother Earth. And plant life with the roots down in that ground, you see, can take those nutrients that are inorganic to us. But plants have that capacity to take the inorganic compounds and create life.
Where did you learn that, Jay? That is profound. The plant roots taking these inorganic nutrients out of the soil and turning them into something organic that humans and animals can use. Where did you pick that up?
Well, that you pick up by being around. It rubs off on you by some of the masters that I worked with. Gaylord Hauser was one of them. Adele Davis was terrific in her day. And even Pablo Arola was terrific. I used to buddy around with him. You remember him?
I remember Pablo.
Yeah, he was pretty doggone good. And then you pick up from the National Health Federation.
Wasn't there a Dr. Kirshner in your life?
Yeah.
He wrote a book. It was very profound.
Live Food Juices. What a great book. He shows you pictures of children that have had leukemia and went on juices and build the red blood cells right. You see, name of the book, Live Food Juices. You'll see the imperativeness of drinking these juices. You'll see the imperativeness of bringing all these plants into your body and the substances of plants. You're going to be nurtured by these plants.
Well, you're exactly right. And I have to compliment you, Jay, because I spent a lot of time doing health shows and trade shows over the years. And I find that this is the best way to get to where the people are. And I tried, and I don't know about yourself, but I tried for many years. I tried for almost 20 years to get the medical system, medical doctors to get interested in vitamins and minerals and plants and juicing for the benefit of their patients. And I was never very successful in doing that. And that's when I started going to the health shows, and that's where I ran into you about 30 years ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Joel, you were great. You were really getting into it then, too.
Well, I was passionate. I was passionate, and certainly you're one of the legends. You were a legend back then, 30 years
legend,
ago.
But I like to consider us as real pioneers in the health food movement and the movement of raw plants. That's you and I are believers of that. There's only a few of us that were way back then that are continuing with our message.
That's true. Continue with the message. That's
continuing with the message, yeah.
It's very profound.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what brought both you and I to this point, passing on the message. The message is so important that we sacrificed things that most people wouldn't. And I want to get back to that because I want people to know how much you sacrificed to take the juicing message out to the public. Johnny Appleseed was famous for teaching people how to plant apple seeds and apple orchards as he crossed the United States. And they actually have Johnny Appleseed parks in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they have Johnny Appleseed Day. And I can see in the near future where we're going to have J. Kordich Day. And we're going to have parks named after J. Kordich because of the information that you've brought to people around the world, not just the United States, but around the world. And I want people to know that you were not an overnight success and you struggled in passing this message on. And what launched you, Jay, into national television? About 1989, I'm told that you started the national television infomercials.
Yeah.
And what got you moving from radio into television?
Well, I did a lot of TV interviews. I was interviewed by TV studios and everything else, and somebody came to me and says, you know, Jay, why don't you make an infomercial? And I said, what's that? What's an infomercial? I had no idea. I never watched television except for football games or a baseball game or a track meet or something like that. So basketball. I'm an athlete, so I don't watch too much TV except for those types of things.
Not a lot of good stuff on there.
I don't know, but I guess it's valuable to people. But anyway, somebody says, why don't you do an infomercial? And I says, what's that? So they said, let's get you on film on what you do right now in a department store or a health convention, National Health Federation, or wherever where we met. Let's do what you do on television. So I did a lot of other shows, but we did an infomercial. And they convinced me, the infomercial. I said, Jay, you can reach 50 million people rather than 25 in a store where people walk by you. 50 million people in one fell swoop. And I said, that sounds good to me. We can educate them. So I did the infomercial, and we have sold on television billions of dollars worth of juicers, which gratifies me. Now, the people that bought the juicers on television, if you did it that way, I'm sorry I wasn't in your kitchen making juice for you and helping you along. I hope for your sake and your health's sake that you're still using the juicers. The juicer is the ultimate way to feed the 100 trillion cells of the human body. The ultimate. There's nothing even close to it, Joel.
Jay, I believe that the people you taught over the years to juice are still juicing.
I think so.
Because I certainly am.
Yeah.
And it's not only a lot of fun, it brings a family together, but it's a good way to get great nutrition. And your infomercial was in the top 10 infomercials for over a 10-year period.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, over a 10-year period, you were in the top 10 and sold over $1 billion in sales of juicers. that represented 20 million juicers worldwide.
Yeah.
I mean, what a legacy.
Yeah.
What a legacy.
It's a phenomenon, you know. But see, people are very, very smart. When they see something, it dawns on them. Because, you know, all of them know, if you heard my story, everything in a can or a bottle has to go through a cooker for a half an hour. It's a federal law. They kill the enzymes to give it shelf life. Everything you buy in a can or a bottle from a supermarket is not made that day. It's at least 6 to 8 to 10 months old, sitting in a warehouse before the supermarket puts it on the shelves and you buy it. And it's sterile. They've killed the enzymes. Chemical catalyst of life that speeds up and slows down chemical reactions. So just that fact alone gets people focused. Yeah. They begin to think, yeah, this old guy is pretty right. By making these juices myself, by me becoming the cannery, meaning themselves, I can override anything in a can or a bottle. I can be the cannery. And it makes common sense.
You are the juicer.
Yeah, you are the juicer.
Your body is the juicer.
Your body's the juicer.
I love that. Your body is the juicer.
Yeah. Joel, everything we eat has to be broken down to liquid because only the liquid part of the food is permeable through the intestinal villi, the portal vein into your liver to reach your bloodstream to feed your 100 trillion cells. We said that earlier, you know? But that's the way we all work. You can't change that. That's a fact of life. And if you want to stay youthful, look, anybody could live to be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. But here I am at 84, and I've already had cancer. If you really want to live a long, healthy life, disease-free life, for as long as your genetic line will permit, you bring these plants into the body. And you don't bring them by just merely eating them because you can't eat enough. If you read your medical books, if you understand human nutrition, what the body needs, you and I, and some of even the little books by Hauser and some of these people, Pablo Roll and some of these other people, will tell you every human body needs the nutrients in the equivalence of eating at least 4 pounds and up to 20 pounds or more of fresh fruits and vegetables daily. Well, nobody can eat that. I learned that right off the bat. Nobody can eat 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 pounds of plant life a day. The fibrous walls are very difficult to begin with. And if you could eat 15 pounds of green and yellow vegetables and plant life daily, you would have to take every mouthful and chew it at least 60 times so you could salivate properly and mix that enzyme called ptyalin that starts and inculcates the breakdown of complex carbohydrates and starches and sugars. Nobody takes the time. I watch people eat when you're out in a restaurant. 1 or 2 bites, gulp. 1 or 2 bites, gulp. And when they finally have a bowel movement, there's whole pieces of carrot still in that stool as it evacuated. You can't break it down good enough. The juicer is the one thing that will break the walls of plants down because cellulose fiber, you remember our science classes, Joel? Cellulose fiber to we human beings is relatively indigestible. We get a fractional amount of food value out of it only. But when you juice and you separate that juice from the fiber and you drink that freshly made juice, bingo! Automatically, within a matter of seconds, the nutrients are through the intestinal villi, through the portal vein into your liver to feed your body. That's the way we're all fed. You can't change that. That's a law.
Make sure to check out our food YouTube channel called Notus Foods. This is 100% Dr. Wallach approved. And the chef that is preparing the food here and teaching you how to follow Dr. Wallach's food guidelines and Dr. Glidden's food guidelines. He's an industry professional, over 22 years experience and a college diploma to back it up. And we do have experienced cooks and bakers as well, working on content for the YouTube channel Notus Foods and the Instagram channel Notus Foods. It's 100% gluten-free, oil-free, all the stuff about burning fats and all of the rules that you would need to know or follow. We're here to teach it to you here, as well as give you tons of ideas for recipes, individual dishes, and meals. Of course, in the near future, we do have a cookbook coming out. Stay tuned for it. Hey all you Dr. Wallach supporters and longevity fans out there. Most of you at some point will have come up against this NutriSmart bashing of Dr. Wallach. There are a few articles that are published specifically to tarnish Dr. Wallach and his message. And I have actually written this whole book. This was a few years ago. I wrote a full-length book in rebuttal to these vicious attacks on Dr. Wallach. I believe every objection that you are going to encounter in the field is addressed in this book. It's absolutely a great resource for you to have as a distributor. And if you do ever have anybody coming up to you saying, I heard what you said about Dr. Wallach and I was going to look into some of his vitamins, but I came up against this article on the internet, NutriSmart article is probably the one they read. So it's a great deal, guys. I put it up very cheap. It's just another tool in our toolbox. And the Amazon link is in the description of this video. And if you'd like to talk to us directly, you can call us. Actually, you can call Judy. She's downriver Detroit. You can call from anywhere in the US, Canada, Mexico, UK, Australia, New Zealand, any other country. You want to email us or send us a DM on whatever app that you want to contact us on. Instagram is super convenient for us. And that's for any sales or product information in those countries, or any distributor information,